The Holy Gospel according to St. Mark, chapter 10, verses 2 to 12. The Pharisees approached Jesus and asked, "Is it lawful for a husband to divorce his wife?" They were testing him. He said to them in reply, "What did Moses command you?" They replied, "Moses permitted him to write a bill of divorce to dismiss her." But Jesus told them, "Because of the hardness of your hearts, he wrote you this commandment. But from the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. For this reason a man shall leave his father and mother, and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore what God has joined together, no human being must separate." In the house, the disciples again questioned him about this. He said to them, "Whoever divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery against her. And if she divorces her husband and marries another, she commits adultery." This is not a new problem. Marriage, divorce, remarriage. In the days of Jesus, it was a big problem, and today, of course, it is a major problem. But in this short time, I don't intend to get into the details of it, but just maybe jump to the conclusions. I would like to divide it, those little few minutes, into the doctrinal aspect and then the pastoral or the actual life, marriage life, what it means for us. First of all, let us go back to the gospel and see what Jesus is telling us. Jesus is reminding the Pharisees and is reminding us that from the beginning of creation, God made male and female. For this reason, a man shall leave his wife, his father and mother, and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Nowadays, people don't accept that, or some people don't accept that, I should say, because they think marriage is man-made. That is not true. God made them male and female, and it is God who instituted the sacred union of marriage. And it's one husband, one wife, and it's a lifelong commitment. So Jesus emphasized that, and his conclusion was that let not man separate what God joined together. What God has joined together, let not man separate. Man has no right to separate what God himself has joined. It is clear that God's intention is that marriage is to be for life. So that's the doctrinal aspect of this gospel. And then we maybe can think about the actual joining of husband and wife in marriage, and it's a lifelong commitment. Well, I think, like everything else, especially love, it's something living. It's something that has to be fostered and developed. And I would like to divide it into three steps or 3 sections. The first is that of illusion. A very young fellow and girl, they get married. They have a dream and hopes. They're looking forward to a bright future. Well, that's a lot of joy in that, but sometimes it's not always what becomes the reality. So we might say this is the illusion state, or the illusion step number 1 in marriage life. The second is disillusionment. Especially when children come along, and mothers, of course, are busy with their children, and the husbands are off working, and especially today, people are so busy they don't have time to communicate with each other. And that's a big problem because they grow away from each other. They grow into their own world. And this can lead to big problems, which often ends in divorce. So that's the second stage. And it's sometimes all that joy and that dream seems to have disappeared. But it's like going through the desert. I remember traveling through the Mojave Desert in the United States. Well, you start out in the city, Los Angeles, and then you go through the dry desert. Then you come to the nice open fields in the central part of the United States. And I think that's what marriage life, or life itself, is like. Love. It has to be fostered. It takes a lot of sacrifice and patience. And once we get to the other side, or past step number 2, then we come to the final step, which is true joy and true love in full blossom. We can speak so much about this beautiful gospel today, but if we can just remember those 3 steps in our life, the first is that of illusion, a dream. Then the second is like passing through the desert, disillusionment. And if we bear with that, then we come to the final stage of true love in full blossom and joy and happiness. May the Lord bless you and keep you from all evil. And let us pray at this time for your family and for all families in the world.